Lavin, do you want us to sing first or
Yes. Sing first.
okay? Okay. So I'll ask my wife to sing a song. Sorry, we couldn't prepare with the music. Um, we thought of preparing it, but unfortunately, we have to move to another family, so we didn't have the instruments and other things. So we will sing without the music. Hope you'll be blessed.
When we walk with the Lord in the light of His word, what a glory He sheds on our way. While we do His good will, He abides with us still, and with all who will trust and obey. Trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus but to trust and obey. Not a shadow can rise, not a cloud in the skies, but a smile quickly drives it away. Not a doubt or a fear, not a sigh or a tear can abide while we trust and obey. Trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus but to trust and obey. Not a burden we bear, not a sorrow we share, but a toll He doth richly repay. Not a grief or a loss, not a frown or a cross, but is blessed if we trust and obey. Trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus but to trust and obey. But we never can prove the delights of His love until all on the altar we lay. For the favor He shows and the joy He bestows are for them who will trust and obey. Trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus but to trust and obey. Then in fellowship sweet we will sit at His feet, or we'll walk by His side in the way. What He says we will do, where He sends we will go. Never fear, only trust and obey. Trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus but to trust and obey. Thank you.
Okay, give me 1 minute. I'll share my screen. Okay, I'm sure that you're able to see my screen. So basically, I thought I'll just talk about problems and how we can handle the problems which we are facing. I'm sure that everybody who is connected in this call or in this meeting will undergo some problem or the other. Okay, the problem may vary. Some people may think that others' problem are bigger than my problem, or my problem is bigger than the other problems. But problems are always there in everybody's life, whether you are a believer, whether you are an unbeliever, whether your friends are believers or unbelievers. Everybody in this earth, some point of the other, will go problems, and problems will be there. We feel that one problem comes and another problem, as soon as one problem ends, the other problem starts. So it's always there. So I just want to spend very less time to see how we can handle the problem through a very well-known portion from the Bible, which is from Daniel chapter 3. We all know, I'm sure that most of you know the story of the great golden image which was made by King Nebuchadnezzar, and he has built a huge statue and requested Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego to bow down before the statue. And if they didn't bow down the statue, then means they'll be put into a fire, a fury fire. That was the problem. And we all know that Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, the man of God, three people, they didn't obey the king. The king was a cruel king. If you read the previous chapters or the following chapters, you know how cruel he was. Once he even told he will kill everybody if they're not able to explain his own dream. He himself forgot the dream, what he dreamt, but he's asking the wise men to tell what the dream was. So such a cruel person he was. He was a very cruel person. And now he's giving a command saying, if you don't bow down before the statue when the music is played, you will be put into fire. And we know that these three people or these three persons did not obey the command of the king Nebuchadnezzar, and they were put into fire. Imagine three people putting into a fire. I don't think so. That is, none of us will have such great problem than what these three people were at that time. They were thrown into the fire. But what really happened? I just want to go through what really happened when they went into that problem. The problem is they are now thrown into fire. And now what is happening? So most of the time we are in problem like fire, and what happens. So what we read from Daniel chapter 3 verse 24 and 25, only 3 men was thrown into the fire, but the king, what he's seeing is, if you read in chapter 3 verse 24 and 25, the king Nebuchadnezzar was astonished, and he rose in haste and spoke, saying to his counselors, did we not cast 3 men bound into the midst of the fire? They answered and said to the king, true, O king. And in verse 25 says, look, he answered, I see 4 men loose walking in the midst of the fire. So he's seeing a 4th person. And he also confessed that he is Son of God. So we see the presence of God in their problem, in the midst of the problem. It's not that the person was outside. It's not that the 4th person was outside the fire, but the 4th person was in the fire walking with them. So one thing, my brothers and sisters, one thing we need to understand is when we are in the midst of trials, when we are in the midst of problems, we need to realize and understand that there is one person who is with us. The God himself is there. His presence is there in our problem. Moving on to the next point is the next P. I just took all the points in P just for us to remember. And in same verse which I was reading, verse 25, then he answered, I saw the 4th man walking in the midst of the fire, and they are not hurt. And the form of the 4th person is like the Son of God. So they're saying they are not. The king is seeing that these people are not hurt. If you know the story, even the person who was about to throw these 3 men into the fire was killed by the fire. But they are in midst of the fire, and what king is seeing is they are not hurt. Isn't it wonderful? Isn't it marvelous? We can see the protection of our God. When we face problems, we can realize His presence, and not only that, His protection is always there. So you need to cling on to Him. You need to hold Him. Do not run away from the problem, but feel His presence. Feel His protection. In Hebrews, maybe I'll come back to that. Moving on to the third point. In verse 27 of Daniel 3, what we read is, maybe I'll not read the full. We read that, and they saw the men on whose body the fire had no power. The hair of the head was not signed, nor were the garments affected, and the smell of the fire was not on them. The fire had no power on them. The fire had no power on them. So the third point, what we see is the power of God in the midst of the problem. The presence is there. He's with us in the problem. He's protecting them in the problem without anything. And the fire had no power. That means His power is seen. His power is revealed. And moving on to the fourth point quickly, and this is almost the climax. In Daniel, the same chapter, verse 30 says, Then the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego in the province of Babylon. So they were out of the fire now. The problem is gone. And now they have been promoted. They have been promoted by the king. So when we walk in the midst of trials and problems in our life, God's presence is always there. He is with you. He will never leave us nor forsake us. From Hebrews 13:5. In Matthew 28:20 says, I am with you always, even to the end of the ages. So His presence, His protection is there, and His power will be there in the problem. Sometimes we may not understand it. Sometimes we feel that we are left out. Sometimes we feel that our prayers are not answered. Sometimes we feel, why only me, Lord? But we need to understand that there is a promotion after the trial. So God has a promotion after the trial, which He has given to Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And all these things is for a purpose. All these trials and difficulties in your life, which you and I may undergo or undergoing, is for a purpose. Is for a plan and a purpose. In Daniel 3:28, what we read is, 28 we read, Nebuchadnezzar spoke, saying, Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who sent His angels and delivered His servants who trusted in Him. So He is saying, Blessed be the God. Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So the plan was God's name to be glorified through the problems. It may be any problem, just hold on to God. Get closer to God, and you will be feeling the presence of God. You will see the protection of God. You will be able to witness the power of God. And then finally you will know, yes, this problem came to me for a good reason. Good that I was able to stick on to the Lord. Good that this happened so that I got this. You will understand the reason for this problem. And later, God's name will be glorified through you. one thing we need to understand, the Lord God is great. In Jeremiah 32:17, we read, Lord God, behold, thou hast made the heaven and earth with your mighty power and your outstretched arms. Is there anything hard for you? In verse 28 of same Jeremiah 32:28, we read, He is the God of the flesh. Nothing is impossible. Everything is possible by this God whom we serve. So let's remember, brothers and sisters, that during our trials, we need to stick closer to God. Never run away from God. Stick closer to God. Feel His presence. Feel His protection. Feel His power. Witness His power. And you will know the results. You will be able to testify and say, Blessed be the God. So I just want to encourage everyone saying, don't worry about the problems. This is an encouraging to me as well. So let's stick to the God and feel His presence, protection, power, and fight the battle. Once again, thank you for this blessed opportunity which you have given to us. Thank you. Hope you'll be blessed.
We're not able to hear you, Monisha.
I am so sorry. Okay. Thank you so much for the wonderful word, brother, and for the lovely song, sister. So, like we heard today, நம்ம கேட்ட மாதிரியே பிரச்சனைகள் குறித்து பிரதர் வந்து நம்மளுக்கு சொன்னாங்க. பிரச்சனைகள் எல்லாருக்குமே வருகிற ஒரு காரியம். ஆனா பிரச்சனை நேரத்துல நம்ம வந்து தேவனால் தெரிந்து கொள்ளப்பட்ட நம்ம எப்படி இருக்க வேண்டும், தேவனோடு நம்ம வந்து இருக்க வேண்டும், அவரோடு நெருங்கின உறவுல நம்ம இருக்க வேண்டும், அவருடைய பிரசனத்திலே இருக்கிறவர்களாக இருக்க வேண்டும். பிரச்சனை நேரத்துல we always tend to go far away from God, give up on God. அப்படி இல்லாத மாதிரி அவரை வந்து நம்ம வந்து நெருக்கமாக அவரை வந்து நம்ம பிடித்து கொள்ள வேண்டும் அப்படின்னு நம்ம சொல்லி பார்த்தோம். இந்த பிரச்சனைகள் எல்லாவற்றிற்கும் ஒரு தீர்வு உண்டு. ஏனால் அவரால் கூடாத காரியம் ஒன்றுமே இல்லை. அவர் பெரிய இயற்கைக்கு அப்பாற்பட்ட காரியங்களை செய்கிற தேவனை தான் நாம ஆராதித்து கொண்டு இருக்கிறோம். சோ வந்து கீப் திஸ் இன் மைண்ட். என்ன ப்ராப்ளம்ஸ், என்ன ஸ்ட்ரகிள்ஸ், துன்பங்கள், வேதனைகள் வந்தாலும் அது எல்லாவற்றையும் நம்ம மேற்கொள்ள முடியும். எப்பொழுது அப்படின்னா தேவன் நம்மோடு கூட அவரை சார்ந்து நம்ம இருக்கும் போது இந்த காரியங்கள் எல்லாவற்றையும் நம்ம தேவன் வந்து ஜெயமாக மாற்றி கொடுப்பார். So keeping this word in mind, if Geeta is there, can I ask Geeta to pray for the word that we heard, and also for our dear brother and sister who actually shared the word today for their family and for their ministries. Geeta, irundinga na neenga prayer பண்றீங்களா?